the integrator's role is to help the visionary interpret and direct, and to actually take all these ideas that visionaries come up with, famous for it, bright lights, 5 ideas a day, and just park them until such time.
Kia ora everyone, Richard Liew here, editor at NZ Entrepreneur. And today, in the second part of a sort of a three-part series actually, we're doing a bit more of a deep dive in the knowledge base into an organisation framework called the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS. And so for this talk, I'm joined by David Whyte. He's in Auckland also. David, looking forward to this chat.
Thanks, Richard. Good to be here. Good to see you again.
Now, you've had a lot of experience starting, your own business and helping grow other organizations, some of the largest, that are out there, large financial services companies. So I'm fascinated to hear your take on what is it that stops other entrepreneurs, business owners, founders, from reaching those same sort of levels that you've seen here in New Zealand. And that I'm talking here potentially family businesses, SMEs, and how you saw the EOS system as a way to maybe address some of those roadblocks.
Entrepreneurs come in various forms. There are some entrepreneurs, I guess I fall into this category, who wants to create an organization that has an objective, perhaps an end date or an income stream, and that's all that they really want to do, and that's perfectly valid, perfectly legitimate. There are others who want to create another Microsoft, another Amazon, and they're different. Again, they have much more universal ambitions and much more grandiose views of the world and their potential. Then where most SMEs, small, medium enterprises sit, make up a family, who look to create comfort, who look to create some form of standard of living, and engage in something that they feel passionate about and that they've got a purpose for, they've got a vision for it, and they want it to be of benefit to those people who would adopt their service or their product. And really what prevents those folks in the middle from growing is the natural cycle of an organizational development, whether it's resource limitation or whether it's the ability not to think outside the square or go beyond the current level of revenue generation that they've achieved. And sometimes, it's what's between your ears that actually restricts your ability to break through. But it's a common factor. It's almost like the old S curve that the management gurus talk about. So in each stage, whether it's right at the beginning of an enterprise of this nature, there's a kind of fear and chaos and random ability to do everything and try and get everything done. At some point in that, the entrepreneurs, the SME founders and the directors will understand that they need to invest in some system or another, whether it's a CRM system or a filing system or spreadsheets or Zero, whatever. It's something that takes away the stress of having to do everything. Once they get past that initial stage, then the curve of achievement starts to rise. But again, it comes to a point where it can only rise so far unless further investment is actually allocated. Sometimes that's technology, sometimes that's systems. Often as not, it's investment in the individual, the intellectual property that the company looks to develop and to expand on to help lift the levels of the metrics that are important to that company. And that's where I think the EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, steps in, because it creates a discipline, a framework, a pathway for that breakthrough to take place. And it's been proven. It's not something that's theoretical or hypothetical. We've seen it in action, and it's made the SME founders and staff and management who embark on the system much more successful and much more able to cope with the ambitions and the stresses and strains of being in business.
For founders watching this, and this may be a bit hard to swallow, but would you agree that some of the same tendencies or things that might make us good as entrepreneurs and be able to get things started are actually the exact same things that cause us to reach that point which you've just talked about, and therefore we become our own sort of worst enemies in some regards in terms of pushing on to growing the business we really want to grow. Can you talk to me a little bit about how that relates to these two almost archetypical characters that form the center of the EOS sort of framework, if you like, the visionary on the one hand versus the integrator?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think the ability of someone who's founded a company and grown it, and it's their baby, it's their creation. They get very attached to it naturally, and change can sometimes arrive as a challenge rather than as an opportunity. And it's understandable. They've created success. They've been up against all the challenges and come through the other side. EOS tends to actually encourage a focus and a perception, a vision, if you like, and that visionary, it's a little bit further afield. And to that extent, occasionally you might find that yesterday's solution is today's problem. And unless the visionary can actually step back and say that, there needs to be other minds put to this issue and some other expertise or capabilities applied. And that's where I think the reality begins to strike. From the early days when I did everything as a visionary to the day dawns when I'm going to give the accounts for someone else to do for a number of reasons. One is I actually don't like doing the accounts, and someone else is going to be better at it than I am. So why am I wasting my time paying myself $300 an hour when I can pay someone else $100 an hour to do the job, and I can go on and make my $300 an hour doing the things that I'm good at and passionate about. So, that realization of the pure economics of working in areas that A, you're passionate about, and B, you excel at, is really where the visionary can score and to make progress. But they have to let go. They have to allow the visionary the space to be occupied to some extent by someone who implements all these plans, all these strategies. And that's the lot that falls to the integrator. And the integrator basically is the individual who will take the leadership team together and encourage them to interact, to give them the disciplines, give them the data, give them the people, right seats, and to get the whole model functioning as one unit that can lift the company's productivity and performance up to the magical 80% and beyond that the EOS seeks to achieve. So to that extent, the integrator has a key role in supporting the visionaries' objectives and goals. Now, not everyone can actually afford to retain a full-time integrator because it sometimes is not a full-time role. So what we're doing here in Integrated Executives Limited is to offer access to a fractional integrator, which is just a fancy term for a part-time chief operating officer. But essentially, it's someone who actually delivers where the rubber hits the road, and they only do it, half a day a week, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, depends on the complexity and the ambitions of the organization that's being assisted. So to that extent, the two roles are separately complementary, and the relationship likewise is complementary and needs to be very carefully nurtured, managed, and developed. But it works. the system works. That's the thing. If you get the right people in the right place, and the right seats, and the right visionary and the right integrator, it's hard to stop it once it gets going, you know.
So you're working with companies right now to do exactly that, right? Because I think there's, you know, as a founder, and I know other founders, many of them, they will hear what you're saying there, and it will resonate, right? They're in a position where they know they can't do everything themselves. Probably they've delegated as much as they think they can,
Yes.
but there's still this fundamental difference, if you like, in almost innate talent or the mindset between the visionary and the integrator. And as much as a visionary or an entrepreneur will try and be also, say, a great manager, you know, you've got that leadership versus management sort of dynamic going on. No matter how much they try, they just simply will not do it as well as someone who gets it, loves it, and is, you know, totally in their groove in that particular role. And I think there's potentially a lot of founders going, well, that's all well and good, but I simply can't go out and hire a full-time general manager or whatnot, as you pointed out. Yeah. So I think that this notion of being able to implement this fractionally is actually quite exciting.
Yeah, I mean that's structured as two things, Richard. One, it actually releases the visionary from having to try and do things that they know they have to do, but probably aren't very good at. In fact, one of the clients that we're working with, I read out the page from one of the books that Deborah gave me, and this was the characteristics, almost the stereotype of a visionary, and the founder guy kind of blushed up. He said, "That's me you're talking about." I said, "Well, I didn't write this. The guy, someone else wrote this, but it just rang true." And the visionaries naturally resistant to that letting go. That's the bit that we have to overcome, where the integrator then has to do all the mahi that the visionary finds challenging, that the integrator is good at, practiced at, and has the patience in one thing, because visionaries will naturally lose a little bit of patience because other people don't see what they see. And the integrator's role is to help the visionary interpret and direct, and to actually take all these ideas that visionaries come up with, famous for the bright lights, 5 ideas a day, and just park them until such time as they either have validity, maybe in the next quarter, or like as not, when you bring the subject up in 2 or 3 weeks' time, the visionary kind of, no, that wasn't that. I'm not working on that now. No, that's gone. So you've got those kind of practical realities that you come across and experience. So, but it's as I say, it just finds the more that we peel back and apply the mechanics of the model, the more resonance it has with the participants.
Look, it's been fascinating talking with you, David, and thanks for shining the light a bit more detail on exactly how this sort of works. Before we wrap up, have you got any final messages you'd like to send to any business owners out there watching?
We're very active in the market and providing access to our services and the product itself. So, don't hesitate. Go online to i.e. integratedexecutives.co.nz, and I'm sure there'll be more details there for you to access and find out about us.